Welcome back to Lavender Recap. In today's video, we'll be going through the plot of Get Out, a critically acclaimed 2017 American horror film. If you're visiting this channel for the first time, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. In the movie's opening scene, we see Andre, a young black man walking alone at night along a suburban street. He's visibly spooked on seeing a car following him, and he begins a brisk walk along the same path he came from. After a while, he turns around to see the car and observes that the door is open. Out of nowhere, a man donning a medieval helmet attacks him, leaving him unconscious. As his body is dragged back to the car by the mysterious man, the scene cuts to the story of Rose Armitage and her black photographer boyfriend Chris Washington. While the couple is getting ready to go away from the weekend to meet Rose's family, Chris voices his concern that she hasn't told them that she's dating a black man. She assures him that her parents are incredibly progressive and that her dad was even an ardent supporter of President Obama. On the ride to her family home, Chris calls his best friend Rod, who is a TSA agent at the local airport, to remind him to take care of his dog while he's away. His buddy, however, makes it clear that he disapproves of Chris dating a white woman, and yet jokingly flirts with Rose. While they're deep in conversation, a deer darts out from the forest and the car hits it. They pull over and call the police, who ask the couple about their whereabouts in the area. Rose tells them that they are visiting her family who live nearby. When the officer asks to see Chris's driving license, she intervenes and tells the officer that there was no need for that, as Chris wasn't driving. At her request, the officer lets them go, and Chris praises Rose for standing up to the racist police officer. The couple soon arrives at the Armitage residence and meets Dean Armitage, an affable neurosurgeon, and Missy, a mysterious cold hypnotherapist. The latter offers to use hypnosis to cure Chris of his nicotine addiction, but he declines, saying that he would feel uncomfortable. There are also two black helpers in the Armitage household, Walter, a groundskeeper, and Georgina, a maid. Dean acknowledges that while black helpers looking after a white family look bad, he doesn't have the heart to fire them, as they were hired to look after his parents. But Chris observes that there is definitely something off about the helpers, whether it's their stiff, artificial politeness or the dated vernacular they're talking. After a brief house tour, the family gets together for afternoon tea. Missy asks Chris about his family, and he states that his father abandoned them when they were young, and his mother passed away when he was 11 after a car hit her. When Georgina is pouring tea, she sort of short-circuits, and Missy asks her to lie down for a while. Just then, Rose's brother Jeremy arrives, and it's clear that he's an aggressive, rich, spoiled kid. Later at night, Chris has trouble sleeping and decides to get up and sneak out to smoke. When he's outside, he sees something charging at him in the distance and notices that it's Walter. He heads straight for him but makes a sharp turn in the nick of time and runs in another direction. At the same time, Chris observes Georgina staring out through the window, looking at her own reflection. Slightly spooked, Chris heads inside, and before he reaches his room, Missy confronts him and tells him that it's a bad habit to smoke. He reluctantly sits down and mocks the concept of hypnotism, unaware that she's already hypnotizing him. He's taken aback to the night his mom died, and he tells Missy that he was too scared to call the police when his mom didn't come home from work. So he just sat watching TV while digging his nails into their bedpost. Present-day Chris also digs his nail into the armchair while telling the story. Missy taps her teacup thrice with a spoon and orders him to sink. As 11-year-old Chris sinks into his bed, his present-day self is thrust into darkness, while he sees Missy far above, a space she calls the sunken place. His consciousness leaves his body. He wakes up the next morning and tells Rose that he has vague recollections of her mom hypnotizing him. That evening, dozens of wealthy white friends of the Armitages arrive for their annual party. The guests express their admiration for Chris's physique and tell him that he must have a good golf swing like Tiger Woods. Uneasy with the racist remarks, he sneaks off and runs into Jim Hudson, a blind art dealer who claims that he's a fan of his photography. When Chris tries mingling with the guests a second time, he finds another black man, Logan King, who is married to an older white woman. Something about him seems familiar, but when he tries to strike a conversation with him, he observes that he is stiff and unnatural, like Georgina and Walter. Chris decides to call Rod and check in with him, and finds it unplugged when he had left to charge earlier in the day. He plugs it in and tells Rod about all the strange happenings. He warns him to leave. After informing Rose about all the weird things taking place at her home, including the unplugged charger, he tries to capture a photo of Logan, but as the flash goes off, he becomes hysterical and screams that he should get out while he still can. Dean attributes Logan's behavior to a seizure. Chris is thoroughly freaked out by the incident and tells Rose that he would like to head home. The scene that cuts to a silent auction being held by Dean and the guests are holding up bingo cards to bid. He has a picture of Chris next to him, and Jim Hudson wins the auction and all the guests leave. When Chris heads home to pack up, Rod calls him and tells him that Logan is Dre, an old friend of theirs who went missing a few weeks ago. Chris's phone dies just then. He gets a peek into Rose's wardrobe, where he sees a box filled with photos of Rose in romantic poses with other black guys, although she had told him he was the first person of color she had ever dated. As Rose and he head to the car, Jerome blocks the front door, ready to attack them. Missy and Dean request their son to calm down and tell Chris to stay. He turns to Rose and asks her for the keys, and she calmly replies that she can't give them to him. Chris realizes that she is in on this weird plot too. As Jeremy lurches forward to attack Chris, Missy cleans her teaspoon on the glass and Chris goes to the sunken place once more. Meanwhile, Rod suspects a conspiracy when all his calls go to voicemail and tries to alert the police, but in vain. No one talks to him seriously when he says Chris was kidnapped by white people. At the house, Chris wakes up from the trance, strapped to a chair that's placed in front of an old TV and a mounted deer head. He's forced to watch a video by Dean's father, Roman, who talks about immortality. The teacup and spoon appeared on the screen once more, knocking Chris unconscious once more. The next time he wakes up, a virtual Jim Hudson informs him that the two will be swapping brains. Dean has apparently perfected the art of neurosurgery, and the whole family and their friends transplant their brains into black people's bodies to give them enhanced physiques and longer life. The host's body stays in the sunken place, and while they're conscious, they remain powerless. Hudson states that he wants Chris's body for his photography skills and keen eye. Dean sends Jeremy to prep Chris for the transplant, and as he takes off the restraints of a seemingly unconscious Chris to get the IV ready, the latter knocks him out. Turns out Chris had stuffed his ear with padding from the chair to block the hypnosis trigger. When Dean comes searching for his son, Chris charges at him and impales him with deer antlers, knocking over a candle that sets fire to the blanket covering Jim too. Rose is unaware of these happenings as she's busy browsing through pictures of potential targets while listening to music. Chris heads upstairs from the basement and kills Missy by stabbing her with a knife she intended to stab him with. As she goes to the front door, Jeremy tries to attack him once more, and the two engage in an intense fight. Finally, he stabs Jeremy in the leg, crushes his skull with head kicks, and gets into his car. The car has a medieval helmet that was seen in the opening scene. As he drives down the driveway, he hits Georgina. Remembering how his mom died in a hit-and-run accident, he gets the injured woman into the car. Unknown to him, she's actually Rose's grandmother, Marion, in the maid's body. She wakes up and attacks him, but the car crashes into a tree and she dies. Rose is finally aware of what's happening, and she comes after Chris with a rifle. Walter, who's actually controlled by Roman, suddenly tackles Chris to the ground just as he takes his picture. The flash brings Walter back to consciousness, and he asks Rose for the rifle. She gives it to him, assuming that he is her grandpa. He then shoots her and himself. As she lays bleeding on the ground, Chris tries to choke her to death but can't go through with it. Just then, a police car pulls up next to them, and Rose calls out to them to help her, playing the victim. However, Rod steps out of the car to save the day. He tells Chris that he pulled some strings at the TSA and this whole thing would soon be over. The friends drive into the night as Rose takes her last breath. What did you think of the movie? Do you think that science will advance to this stage in the future? Comment below. Hope to see you back soon.